Like the noodles came from the Malay and the Chinese. Chili with sweet taste, a bit unheard of. So these were some of the things they borrowed and they created this dish.
What does it taste like?
Tastes like Paal Mee Siam.
Hi, I'm Taahira. I am one part of the Spicy Kitchen venture.
Hi, I'm Mama Z. I'm on the other half of Spicy. I do the cooking and Taahira is the spokesperson. Paal means milk, but we are using coconut milk, and Mee Siam is bihun, and it's eaten with sambal, just like nasi lemak rice. Another difference is that in the nasi lemak, the rice is cooked in coconut milk with the condiments on the side, whereas for our Paal Mee Siam, all the stuffs are in the noodle itself and eaten with the sambal. I'm going to cut that green leaf now, but I'm going to just cut them in finger strips. Whenever we do Paal Mee Siam, it's tastier to use shallots. Flavor comes out better. But if you do not have shallots, we can also use the big onions. My mother-in-law's mom, when she had a canteen, so once she tried to cook bihun with coconut milk and then use the sambal that was already there for the nasi lemak, and it sort of took off. Then it became so popular that it became a staple food in our home. They come from a small village in the southern part of India. So they brought with them their own culture and their own identity. But I think they were also very good in the sense they assimilated into the local scene. So they had neighbors who were Malays and Chinese. They picked up certain dishes and they sort of introduced that fusion into their own cooking style. Thank you. Now we're going to cut the onions now. So we cut them in strips. So we're going to stir fry the egg now.
Spicy Kitchen started because my mom and I were in Uganda. She hosted Ugandan girl in Singapore. And when we went to visit her, they were super hospitable towards us. And so we decided that a way to show thanks and express our gratitude for their generosity would be to cook something for and with them. And so that night we drove to the local market in Kampala, got some ingredients and then cooked with them. And they of course had never cooked Singaporean food, and my mom basically ordered everyone around. She just said, okay, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. And I was like, wow, she's so good at delegating work, teaching people how to do this, getting people involved. And on our bus ride, I told her like, you know, I really think something could come out of this. And that's how Spicy Kitchen started as an idea.
So I'm frying the tofu now. So you have to cut this in strips.
I think people who come to Spicy Kitchen, they learn by observing. When people enter our home and there are some elements like prayer mats or Islamic scripture on the door, in photo frames, and the fact that my mom prays sometimes during the session, they observe, and throughout the 3.5 hours or so, I think they often pick up many things about what it means to be Indian and also Muslim, because maybe they think like, oh, I thought only Malays are Muslim or something, you know. The other thing is to question and understand their own heritage. Like, actually, where are their ancestors from, you know? My mom used to tell me never to fry anything that's wet. So she would pat dry the tofu to make sure that it's dry before frying it.
Shallot has to be sauteed a bit. The pandan leaf, add in the chili, stir fry. Then add in the ginger garlic paste. Press this and then put it in.
My mom smooshed the lemongrass against the tabletop counter to release the aroma of the lemongrass so that when it's cooking, it's more fragrant.
And I'm going to put in the coriander leaf now and then the mutton.
So if you're vegetarian, you can opt out of using mutton stock and mutton. My mom has made a version of this with chickpeas and no mutton stock.
Okay, now we can add in the coconut milk. I may look fierce on the outside, but I was actually quite timid and didn't have that much of confidence in the things that I was doing or to share what I knew with other people. With the sessions, my confidence slowly grew.
we're very complementary in this, and you got better in the things I'm good at in the same way I got better in the things you're good at.
And one more thing I have to say is that we are both a bit of a daredevil, not afraid to
Wow.
try. So we're going to add in the noodles now. So actually in the past we used only ladle. I met a fellow cook. He told me that using chopsticks will keep the noodle from breaking.
So this part is actually the most tedious because it requires coating all the noodles with coconut milk, and it's very hot.
Okay, now we're going to add in the bean sprouts and the leaves.
Mummy, how do you make sure that the vegetables aren't overcooked?
So for Paal Mee Siam, the leaves don't have to be cooked in advance because the heat itself will cook the vegetables.
When I got to do Spicy Kitchen, I really got to see her as like a co-worker, and I would even go so far to say as a friend. And this has really changed our relationship because it has removed a lot of like the fear, I think, and the distance that sometimes we have with our parents, especially in Asian cultures. When I started doing Spicy Kitchen, I had to dig into my family history, my heritage. Where are my ancestors from? You know, when did they come to Singapore? Who converted to Islam? And how many generations have since been Muslim, for an example. And it has really helped me to have a stronger sense of rooting myself. And I always say that spicy is my roots, you know, it's my process of understanding my history. So I think it's a continuous process, and that makes me really happy. Our identities are made up by a sum of where we are raised or who gave us life. I'm also a product of all the people and women and men who came before me. Every generation has a chance to establish for themselves what that means. A lot of young people think like, oh, I don't want to be like my parents because they were so conservative or whatever. You know, like if you decide that that's not how you want to be, that's fine. Like you can recreate this identity to be respectful to those who came before you, but also with your personal choice and agency about what you think is important to you now.
Okay, done. So when we are eating, we will definitely come across the curry leaf. I know some of you don't like it, so we can put it aside. And we take a bit of the sauce and sambal and mix it like this. And then it becomes red.
I'm not living in Singapore anymore, so I've had a lot of time to think about what my identity meant. And I think when we're in Singapore, we use the cultural and ethnic markers of the government that we are Indian, we're Malay, we're Chinese, or we're Eurasian, and we use that as the frame to understand ourselves. And I think that's just the tip of the iceberg.